So one of the things I think I've noticed, I'd love to hear your thoughts on whether I'm correct about this. I mean, it seems like that political discourse on campus that you and I were both critical of at that time
Mm.
migrated since then, since about 2018, 2019, into the mainstream.
Yeah.
So that, and I think it informed a whole bunch of what's been going on since Trump was elected, which has been a very serious change in political discourse in this
Mhm.
country over the last 4 years. And people like AOC and Ilhan Omar and those, I mean, they clearly come out of that culture. I mean, as soon as
Right.
she opened her mouth, I said, oh, yeah, I've seen hundreds of you in my classes over the
Right.
last 30 years. I was a university professor at Columbia and Barnard and Occidental for 25 years. So I know that
Mm.
world extremely well.
Mm.
Um, and do you agree with that? Like it's actually filtered, seeped into the mainstream discourse?
I mean, it's always interesting to me how people tend to define the humanities as being completely ineffectual and not having any ability to affect change, and yet
Right.
intersectional theory has become the basic assumed vocabulary of our entire media class and
I know.
increasingly of our political class.
Yeah.
I've said before, one of the things that you're paying for when you pay for a fancy liberal arts education is you're paying to get your entry into a particular discourse community, and being a member of that discourse community is very important if you want to go into media, if you want to go into publishing, certainly if you want to go into academia as your profession. So
That's right. I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess it's not any different in a way than what's always happened, which is that people who were in the big publishing houses came out of English departments. They were English majors at the Seven Sisters colleges or the Ivy Leagues or whatever, right?
mm-hmm.
And a lot of people who went into politics also came out of the humanities as well. That's where you learn how to put poetry to politics, right? That's where you learn how to fashion sort of effective rhetoric. That's where you learn how to create these narratives that are compelling and persuasive for people, right? And so,
And you can see it filtering out with Robin DiAngelo's White Fragility becoming
yeah,
#2 on the nonfiction bestseller chart or whatever it got to.
yeah. Have you read the book?
I have not. I have had enough of white women telling me about racism in my life. So
Yeah, I mean, I haven't either. I think maybe have read snippets, or I got enough of her thinking some way, like either hearing her talk or something, that it was very clear what was going on there.
mm,
Yeah, this what do you make of the white? It's not a white fragility argument. It's really like a condemnation, basically, of white people in toto, right? I mean,
yeah.
yeah. So what do we carry the sin with us, stuff like that kind of thinking. It is very religious, right?
I mean, one of the things is that if you object to this particular kind of racial discourse,
Mm-hmm.
which again is, I think, the example of Robin DiAngelo shows it is a very much a sort of bourgeois white discourse as well as one that we might associate with people of color.
Yeah.
You're presumed to object because you are offended, right? In other words, you're supposed to say, "Oh, I'm mad because being told that I carry the original sin of white supremacy offends me and hurts me deeply." But to me, the problem is the opposite, which is that it doesn't do anything to harm me, right? Like
Oh.
as a white person walking around life and enjoying the fruits of white privilege, as I certainly do, it just makes no difference whether I'm supposed to carry around this guilt at being the bearer of that white privilege. The individual guilt is just almost never a effective means to change anything about the world. And I think that it's one of my biggest, most consistent critiques of the entire social justice movement is, to their credit, they talk about structures, right? They talk about
Mm-hmm.
structural change and how white supremacy is structural, that how patriarchy is structural. But all of the solutions tend to be individual, and they all tend to be really bound up in your emotional state, right? Like you're a good white person if you sort of have this internal, you're flogging yourself internally for sort of,
Right.
carrying around your white privilege, but that makes absolutely no difference to the life of an actually existing black person, right?
Right. Well, that's the thing. I mean, I've talked about this a lot very recently on this show with several guests, is that for me and for many people who have come on the show, and others, and this was the problem for Malcolm X, by the way, that he identified, which was that not black people. We got to get over saying that black, but I think I think there is a very important category which I call the black political class has centered white people in their consciousness and in their program and in their politics. Right. So that it's like the problem is, it seems like this is what you've been saying. The problem that they identify is what's in our heads, what white people's heads. So then the solution is to change what white people think about black people. So therefore it becomes a paternalistic relationship or dynamic as well. Unwittingly, I'm sure they would never admit to that, but that's certainly what I see. It's like seeking some sort of favor or special treatment or really attention from a father figure who unfortunately is the white man. And that is I only see that in the black political class, meaning people on, who are on campuses. These are all college educated people. They get these ideas from college classrooms, I believe. You simply don't hear this where I live in East Oakland on the streets. I don't hear people talking about white supremacy in East Oakland. You don't hear it in Southside Chicago on the streets. I don't think you hear it in the Marcy projects in Brooklyn. We know this. I mean, I've interviewed people who are from those places and they're like, 90+% of black people in this country don't even know what we're talking about. That goes for white people too. This is an elite, and you said class, and thank you for introducing that. And I hang out with, unfortunately, too many libertarians who are deaf, dumb, and blind to class. And I actually think that class is always central. In fact, it might be the central thing. So this is all elite discourse. I mean, that's who goes to colleges, and that's where this stuff is talked about. It's just that the one difference now I see in American history is that over the last roughly 4 years since Trump was elected, that discourse has really come out and taken over much of mainstream discourse. But what is it about? You said bourgeois. Yeah, I think you're right. There's something interesting. I mean, the bourgeois culture in this country since the 19th century has been about repression, largely. Repression of, desire, famously puritanical, et cetera, about order, about training people to be good workers and to be good citizens and good soldiers and all that. But mostly to be orderly and efficient, right? That's what the bourgeoisie wanted in the 19th century, because that's what factories are, right? They're the paragon of like making people into machines in a sense. And now, though, it seems to me they're peddling chaos. And that's what's very, I mean, in very recent times, I'm talking about just in the last like month or two. Wow. I mean, it's like they're taking orders from teenagers now, like Trader Joe's just, what was this ridiculous thing? They just decided to rebrand all their taco shells because a 15-year-old in California filed a complaint. And much of what I think civil society, like sort of the culture, what's in the media, what we say is actually literally dictated by the demands of adolescents who have been in college